Hey Joey, how are you today?
I'm great, Mike. How are you?
Good, good. Thank you for doing this. I thought it'd be nice to have someone from the States and their kind of journey with handball. So I've kind of learned a lot about you in the last few months with your podcast, and I've watched your vlogs from when you played in Denmark. I love them. I think they're great. I was
You
kind of
as well.
upset that you stopped them.
There's a couple still queued up that I haven't quite edited yet, so
Yeah.
I
Uh,
might put those out there.
so first of all, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, and it'd be interesting to see how you got involved in handball.
Sure, yeah. And first off, I want to say thanks for having me on. I'm a big fan of you and what you're doing, and likewise, I've also learned a lot about you in Alberta over the past few months. So it's a mutual admiration here.
Thank you.
But yeah, so I got started into handball same way most Americans did. I saw it in the Olympics. I was about 16 at the time, and I was a lacrosse player. And I thought, it's as close to lacrosse in the Olympics as I was going to get. So I thought, why not give this cool sport a try? So from Detroit, and the closest team handball club to me was Chicago. And as luck would have it, shortly after the Olympics, I was going to Chicago for a vacation. So I reached out to their club, went to a practice, and loved it. And so then a few months later, there was a junior national team tryout, and I figured I'll give it a shot. So I
Yeah.
went back to Chicago and was one of like one or two people to show up for the tryout. So
Oh,
by virtue of showing up, I pretty much made the team. And then after that, I went to Partille Cup over in Sweden.
yeah.
That was like 2016, and the rest is sort of history. I've um, traveled a lot with the under 21 U.S. national team, as well as I've made some personal trips over there to attend some camps, and most recently to live over in Denmark for a few months.
Going back to when you started, were you always a goalie?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I I don't like to run, and I also didn't really want to learn the rules, so figured goalie was the most straightforward position. And
And how does the national team tryouts work? Is it like you get an email, or you go on the website?
that instance in particular, I think I saw it on Facebook or something,
Okay.
and it's changed significantly, every
Okay.
year since then. I think that was,
Yeah.
2015, 2016. But in that instance, it was basically a Chicago inter practice with the junior national team coach at the time. I still think he might be the coach, but it was Craig Rott who was,
Okay.
observing the one guy to show up for the the tryout. So
So was at that time the same thing, like a couple of Americans and a lot of European players?
oh yeah, it was. We actually had quite a few Americans at that time who were playing with the senior team down in Auburn.
Okay.
So those guys actually kind of knew how to play handball. So it was an
Yeah.
interesting split. Few guys who are currently on the national team who are on that team were Antoine
Yeah.
Bach,
Yeah.
Sam Hodderson, Abu.
Yeah.
There were a few more, and then a guy named Nico Mukendi, who was born and raised, I think, in New Jersey, and was playing with the national team, who got a lot of playing time. John Evans as well, but mostly it was. I remember at one point looking around on the bench, and it was pretty much all the Americans on the bench and all the Europeans on the court. Oh, there was a guy from West Point who was the
Okay.
starter. That was the other. That was probably the only non-dual citizen starter for that team.
Nice. And was that the tryouts for the Partilla Cup, or did you guys have a Pan Am's?
I think it was some sort of Norca competition
Okay.
initially,
Okay.
and I didn't make the cut for that one. But
Yeah.
then a few months later, Craig was putting together a team for Partille, and I think I was, on his email list or something.
Okay, that's nice. After that, what was your process? Now, like, I mean, I think I was on YouTube looking up handball stuff, and I saw your vlog, so I kind of looked you up. Um, was that the process after? Is going to Denmark?
Not initially. That
Okay.
was, I think, right after going to Sweden, or while I was at Sweden, I realized there's like zero chance I'm gonna go to the Olympics or become a professional if I'm in the U.S. So the ultimate goal was to go over to Europe and try to become a professional. Initially, like most Americans, the goal
Yeah.
was I'm going to be an Olympian. But
Yeah.
that was a very healthy wake up call that, there's guys who play this game full time. This isn't like luge or bobsled where, you only really care about it during the Olympics. This is an actual sport. It was the analogy to lacrosse was like pretty staggering because like with lacrosse and handball, you look at some of these guys and you're like, this guy's a professional athlete. And then the handball IQ and just the nuances of the sport, like you can only get that through being surrounded by good players, by training a lot, by playing for a long time. So I was in college already, going to a small school, and I was playing lacrosse there. And so I wanted to just finish out my schooling, and then the goal was to find somewhere in Europe to play for a period of time.
So you didn't really play after the national team stayed at Partilla Cup. Did you play handball in college?
So I tried to start up a little team at my small school. That Ohio is probably the closest place that had college tournaments. So we went to a couple, and it was basically just me and a couple of my frat buddies loaded up into a minivan, and they picked it up pretty quick, and it was fun. But I realized, like, at that point, I was like, I don't really want to spend the time and energy to like do what JD at Ohio State was doing, which was like amazing. Like, yeah, it was at that point, I pretty much I just wanted to be a college guy who played handball like on the side. The summer after Partili, I found a camp in Croatia. It was called the International Goalkeepers Camp.
I saw a video of you in it.
Oh my God, that was like the coolest. If Partili was the coolest thing, like that was like the second coolest thing I think I've done with handball. Like it's just this like resort on a beach in the Adriatic, and there's like a handball gym, and they have like some really, really, really big names in the goalie world as camp counselors. So I did that for 2 summers, and I'm kind of considered that my I don't know, my credentials. That was like my 1 week of handball stuff for the year. Which I felt like was actually kind of sufficient compared to what a lot of guys my age were doing. And so I went to that camp after Partili, a year after Partili, and then I didn't make a roster for like the IHF trophy.
Okay.
Which I'm still a little sour about. And then but like a week or 2 after that tournament, there was an open tryout for the national team down at Auburn. So I was like, all right, I'm going to show these guys what they missed out on. So I went down and just started like doing the warm-ups that I learned at that goalie camp. And Javier, who was the coach at the time, was like, hey, like, you want to move down to Auburn, Alabama? And I was like, thanks for asking, but not really. But it was kind of a cool validation. And then after that, I got invited to the Junior Pan Am Championships in Paraguay, which was like 2017, 2018.
Okay. So you had a chance to move to Auburn.
I was invited to, yes.
So for you to go there, is it all paid for?
No, it was, no. My experience with the handful of times I went down to Auburn was nice and also, I don't know, shocking, because you go down there and they have their contingent of maybe 10 guys who live there full time, and they're kind of the veterans of the team, but they all have jobs. Like they all have to like clean up the court. They have to like get down on their knees and scrub the court. And one of the times I actually went down there, so they trained in the old Auburn basketball gym.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like they did not have like exclusive rights to that gym. Like that was like Auburn University's like rec gym that they let the handball guys use. So we had to practice on like some even smaller gym because there was like a high school cheerleading practice going on in our normal gym. And I guess they paid for it, so they got the rights to it. So there was nothing paid for, and a lot of the guys I knew who went down there who weren't really handball guys, but who were like former Division I football players, like good athletes and had the potential to be good handball players, like got disenchanted with the sport and were just very much against that program. It kind of scared a lot of people off, unfortunately.
Well, as Alberta, we went there a few times to have training camps with them, play exhibition games, and we thought like that was their facility, like they got it whenever they want.
I think that's what a lot of people thought too. But in
Oh,
my experience, and I don't know, it could have just been the one time that happened. But yeah, it seemed like they were just sort of like guests in somebody else's house.
okay. So then at that time, you decided to not go, but then you made the junior national team. You guys ended up doing pretty well in Argentina, correct?
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
yeah,
We played really well. I think we could have, had we won our last game, we would have qualified for the World
that was
Championship
against Chile.
against Chile. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sam Hodderson, the
got the
game,
red.
the prior game against Chile, had scored like 14 goals, and like
Yeah,
at the time, nobody had any idea. Like we just ended the game, looked at the stats, like, oh my God, Sam, you know how many goals you scored? And that buzz kind of got around the tournament. So I thought it was very interesting that in the first like 2 or 3 minutes, Sam gets a very, very, very questionable red
red
card
card. Yeah.
for still scratching my head how or why he got that. But yeah, unfortunately, that was a bad thing for us, and we ended up losing, coming in fourth.
Okay. And then after that, that's when you decided to go to Denmark?
Yep, it was that was my junior year in college. So I wrapped up my senior year at Hope, and was looking for places to go. I was originally thinking of going to Aarhus, which
Oh,
was
yeah.
a similar program to where I ended up, but it was in a bigger city, and a couple of Americans had previously gone there and had a great experience. So I had
We've
my
had like 20 people from here go to that academy.
oh really you did you go there or
I didn't, but we've gone to camps there, but we sent a lot of our players there. You're the reason why two of our Alberta players went to the other academy
really?
because they were everyone was going there and players were coming back and some were improving and some weren't.
Hmm.
And at that time, Aarhus was getting to be known more as a party school.
Yep.
So I was kind of like, yeah, I'm not sure I want to send our players when they're coming back not improving. So
Yep.
then I watched your vlogs and I looked into that academy.
Really? I did not
Yeah,
know that.
yeah, yeah.
Holy smokes. And did it pay off? How did they like it?
Um, they liked it. They liked it. They just said there was a lot of downtime,
Yep. Yeah,
and
that
so they wanted more. And one is going back, but he's going to play with Skern.
no way. Oh
Yeah,
my,
but not the top team like their U19 team. Yeah.
that's huge.
And then the other one we're sending to tryouts in France.
Which one's playing with Skieran?
Jackson Howden.
Nice.
Yeah.
For him,
Yeah.
that's an accomplishment right there.
Yeah. So how was your experience over with the academy?
It was that was like a dream. It was incredible. I spent the first so I went in the second or the first half of 2019. So
Yeah.
I graduated college in 2018 and then wanted to work and save up some money. So I took off like New Year's Day
Yeah.
2019, and it was like perfect timing and just like everything I could have asked for from the experience.
Yeah.
It was around the time of the World Championships, which was
Yeah.
taking place like one town over. So I got to go to more World Championship games than I'd ever dreamed I would have.
Yeah.
I went to a lot of professional games, and it was just really like I kind of learned what handball is really all about. And
Yeah.
I had the impression already that it's not this just an Olympic sport. It's it's like lacrosse. People play it for fun. Like people play it at different levels. But that really, really nailed home the point that like there's just so much culture and there's more to the sport than just what most Americans are exposed to.
Yeah.
And that was one of the biggest takeaways for me and what made the experience so great. And just, I don't know, living in a foreign country in general was
Yeah.
a great experience. And yeah, there was a lot of downtime, and ECAST is not necessarily like, you know, it's no Aarhus. Like we definitely weren't partying a lot, which is probably a good thing for me. I kept my nose clean for the most
Yeah.
part, but it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing.
And what was your schedule like at the academy?
So it tended to vary, but a little bit of just bigger context. Like going in, I had no idea what to expect as far as day to day goes. I knew that we would be training for handball at the school as well as for whatever club they put us on.
Yeah.
Um, but beyond that, I had no conception of what the academy was and where that sort of fell into people's lives in Denmark. So
Yeah.
basically, from what I understood, after people in Denmark finish high school,
Yeah.
like around age 18, they don't necessarily go straight into university. They, you know, some travel, some do other things, but a lot of people go to what are called like high schools or high schools. And there's a lot of those that specialize in different things. Like there's theater ones, there's like art ones, and then there's obviously sports ones. So the age range was about like 18 to, my roommate was 32. So
Oh.
you don't have to be in like the transitional year. You can kind of go to those whenever you want.
Yeah.
So there were different like specialties you could specialize in. You could specialize in being a handball coach. You could specialize in being a handball player, a soccer coach, badminton player. Like just, I don't know. It's the analogy I use is it's like if summer camp was like a school where
Okay.
you wake up every day and you're in summer camp. So we would wake up, breakfast was at like 8:30. Depending on the day, we would have training at 6, but that was maybe once a week. And then most days we would have it, so we would have breakfast at 8, and then like Danish class or arts and crafts class until about 11. And then we would have a training at the school, and then that would last for maybe an hour and a half, and then we would have lunch, and then maybe one class in the afternoon, which would be again something like how to golf or like how to you know, do arts and crafts or something, which is
Yeah.
nice. And then unless it was a Tuesday or a Thursday, you pretty much had the rest of the day to yourself. And if it was a Tuesday or Thursday, you would normally be training with whatever club you were placed on.
Okay.
So we had some people who were on a bigger club, Michelin. I think they were Division 1 by the end of my time there. Or we had ECAST, which was a little bit more of like a recreational club where a lot of the coaches played. It was, I think, Division 3, but they had a second team that was like,
Okay.
you know, lower division. But yeah, that was pretty much day by day. And then we would have field trips once a week. We would go to, you know, like a museum or where else? Went to like a mosque once. It was, yeah, they just want to like expose the students to a lot of stuff.
Yeah. That's what everyone that goes there, they say it's all about learning about yourself,
Yep.
like getting to become an adult. And that's what, and you know what though? Everyone that's gone there has grown up a lot when they come back. Their experiences, and they say the culture just, it's different, and they really enjoy the Danish culture.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
awesome to hear, because I feel like that was the experience for myself as well as the Americans I went with, because
Yeah.
I don't know, just the culture, like the mindset that people have while they're there is like, it's very interesting. It's not your typical like American sports culture where
Yeah.
you'd assume it would be this militant, like, you know, nonstop stuff.
Yeah.
The interesting thing for me too was Klaus Hansen, who was
Yeah.
the head of the handball program, Olympic gold medalist. And then while I was there, he became a world champion as far as coaching goes.
Yeah.
And to see who he is as a person and his philosophy around training, and it was just such a stark contrast between everything I've been told, you know, growing up, and everything I've seen with a lot of athletes and coaches. He's the most mellow, like genuinely cares about you as a human being person I've ever met. And to see somebody like that who has like literally reached the pinnacle of athletic achievement, like shook me as a person in a good way.
I'm going to ask you more questions about him, but first, I thought he was a coach there, but he's not a coach. He teaches the coaches.
Yep, he's a coach for the coaches. So he'll occasionally be at a training and you know help out the players, but he's more of a mentor to the people who are training to become coaches.
Okay. So who was your guys' coach?
His name was CERN.
Okay, yeah.
He was a former. He coached for the top league for women for many years, and another
Okay.
great guy and a great coach. I learned a lot from him.
Okay. And so how were the practices? Was it more, because I know a lot about the Aarhus Academy, and what I find is it's kind of just random practices. I mean, they're all really good practices, but they don't take an individual player when they get there and say, listen, we're going to get to here with you. So we're going to work on your individual skills, make sure you get at a certain level. It's more generic drills. Is that how it was at your academy?
Not quite. And so at Aarhus, do they have like coaching students, or is it just players?
It's they have players and the hired coaches, but there's not like a coaching class.
Okay. What really helped me, I think, was like my friends who were living in the dorms with me were also handball coaches, like my roommate, for instance.
Oh,
Right? So being surrounded by people who were coaches who were just helping me throughout the day and throughout training, like, was a huge benefit and one of the perks of the way it was set up.
yeah,
Um, but the practices were pretty structured towards the beginning, and then the season ends in like March or April, so it got a little bit more chillaxed
yeah,
around that time. The weather was nice, so we'd go out and play some beach. And by that point too, you'd been training for 5 times a week for the past 3 months. So it was a welcomed
yeah.
respite towards the end. But yeah, it was having somebody like Klaus, and then he brought in Michael Brun, who's the goalkeeper coach for the Danish national team. So that
Okay.
was like, not
Oh,
only was I starstruck, but like those were the 6 a.m. practices actually. So when I would have to wake up early, it would be training with him, and that was awesome. Like that in and of itself, just having trained with him either once or like 5 times, like yeah, that improved me. It took me to a different level as a player.
what's their in the Danish style? What's the main philosophy that they work with you on? Like, what are things that they're telling you a lot as a goalkeeper compared to your American coaches?
The best piece of advice was from CERN, and he said before my first game, he said if you focus on winning the game, or if you focus on I want to have a 50% save ratio, like you're gonna mess up. Like it's not gonna be good. You should be focusing on the things you can control, as far as like the techniques that I had been learning up to that point. So if I'm focused on the practical steps that I can control during a game, the
Yeah,
rest will take care of itself. And if I don't take care of what I can, then I have control over nothing. So that was the most insightful philosophical thing I took away. But another thing too is just the hygge or whatever, like just the playing for fun.
yeah,
That was another thing that was very telling of just the culture in general.
yeah. What the Danish culture is very positive when it comes to sports. You're not the tallest goalie, um, but a lot of players in North or coaches in North America are going to go. You're too short to go anywhere with the sport. Were they kind of like that, or they say, "Hey, we just got to teach you a different style"?
The second one, and they also recognize too that, like, again, this is another insight into how they sort of thought, like, just because I'm short doesn't mean I still can't improve and still
Yeah,
can't keep getting better. And if I focus too much on like, oh, I got to get to the Bundesliga, like, again, I won't be able to make the small steps to take me from the ULAN series to, Division Two, right? I
yeah,
can't. You have to clear the fence before you shoot for the moon,
yeah,
right? So that was very helpful. And then they're also extremely encouraging, especially towards the end, which was like, looking back, a little bittersweet because I kind of feel like I left a little bit on the table as far as like improvement goes. But I don't know. They were very positive and told me, if I kept improving as much as I had over the course of that time period, like, you know, had a lot of potential, I guess, it was very encouraging. It was very encouraging because, yeah, I have been told like I'm super short and like I'm very much reminded by my 4 younger brothers who are all taller than me and you know, every other coach and athlete. So they didn't view it as a hindrance to my potential.
Well, that's good. So obviously now you went with two other Americans.
Yep.
Um, your experience was fantastic. What did you do when you got home then?
So I enrolled in law school, or
Uh,
I had applied while I was there and then got accepted. And then I was like, yeah, I would like to attend law school. I was kind of falling apart too towards the end. My shoulder was really bothering me and my hips, and I just like didn't feel great. And I think at that point I was okay with just being like, you know, this is the experience I wanted to get out of Europe. I learned a lot, and I learned that there's just so much work to be done and so much opportunity to take the experience I had in Denmark and share that with people in America, that I transitioned my focus more towards being not a player and just kind of being involved in different ways.
yeah, you said it. I'm pretty sure it was on your podcast one of the earlier times. You said when you kind of got back, you were kind of getting, yeah, that's enough of handball. It's time for me to move on with my life. And then you had a chat with Barry Sif.
Yeah, he was actually very much an important part of me, like not completely walking away, because there was a point while I was overseas, while I was in Denmark, and where I was like, okay, I'm definitely not going to the Olympics anytime soon. If I were, it would be, you know, 2030s, and I would spend most of my 20s over there really having to grind it out.
Yeah.
So it just didn't seem worth it at that point. And then, you know, you look at the landscape of handball in the U.S. and it's tough. It's not conducive to roles outside of being a player. You know, you go to any club in the U.S., any single one, and the people who are running the club are running it essentially so that they can keep playing, which is great. And I do enjoy playing once in a while for fun, but that's not what gets me up in the morning and gets me excited to go to handball.
So you started Detroit Handball Club.
Yes.
And again, my full-time job is handball, so I keep up with what everyone does. You really came out with a lot of promotional videos.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You, I don't know who the other person was, but you made this video about how Detroit Handball Club is going to bring in international players. It was like all over Detroit. It was a cool promo video.
Thank you. Yeah, that was my brother, my more handsome and taller brother.
Oh, that's your brother.
Yeah.
Is he a handball player?
No, he's just he's the brother of a handball player. So he was, and I have another brother too who have been very helpful with getting logistics.
Yeah. So how's that gone so far? Starting Detroit Handball Club. I saw that you started a 3-on-3 league.
Yep.
Your website, I've looked on your website quite a bit. How's everything going with Detroit Handball Club?
As of late, it's been you know, interesting with Corona and whatnot.
Obviously.
But yeah, around that point, I was like, you know, let's see what we can do on the crowdfunding front. And if we could get a certain amount of money, I felt like I could bring in a few players that I've met over my career, and we could basically just clean house at the national championship. Because I saw, you know, New York City making the Super Globe, which was like another inspiration. Like, okay, if New York City can do this with dudes who are pretty old, who are good handball players, but you know, why can't I just get a couple dozen of my buddies over here from this tiny town in Denmark and you know, run the table here in the United States and have the best team in the U.S. And if I can do that for a certain amount of money and just for a few weeks, like, let's go for it. Why not? So that started, and obviously didn't pan out exactly how I thought.
Of course.
But you live and you learn. So the 3v3 league was sort of born out of an idea that, you know, handball is just a fun sport to play in general. You don't necessarily have to have full court, full rules, all the right equipment. Like, all you need to do is just be throwing a ball around and playing the general rules. And if you have a a trophy or just a T-shirt on the line for people, they'll
Oh, yeah.
invest the effort to improve and to show up and to be a part of it. So that was my thinking going in, and that actually was very effective. And I'm glad I did that. And once this stuff kind of blows over, we're definitely going to go back to that, because that was a big recruiting tool for the sport, and it was just fun in general. It got a lot of people who, maybe they just played in it once and will never play in it again, but now they know handball. Like, they've at some point played the sport and can recognize it beyond just the Olympics.
Yeah. How many teams did you have in that?
We had, I think, five or six.
Oh, so pretty good.
So 3 people apiece, and it was, except for one team, it was people I'd never met before. It was just through promoting on Facebook and social media. And
That's good.
I was happy with it. And several of those people kind of rolled into the full-on Detroit Handball Club team, which was nice.
Okay. And then you had some videos of some practices, and your numbers were pretty good.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Before Corona, we had, like, it was astonishing, because every single practice we would just have somebody new off the street who like saw it on YouTube or Facebook and who wanted to give it a try. And those people just like kept coming back, and there would be new people. And our last practice, which was a week before what would have been our first game, we had 20 something people there.
Nice.
And it was awesome. And a big thing too, going back to the dream of having this like Danish all-star team, was, as much as I love handball, like, I don't know how to teach it. I don't know the nuances. I played goalie, so I like kind of robbed myself of the playing experience and understanding how to communicate and teach it. But fortunately, like, at our first practice, we had a few French guys show up who just like really wanted to help teach people. And then a few practices later, we had a German guy come, and those guys have stuck with it, and they've kind of done my coaching for me, which has been great.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Just going back to one thing, just so you know, that Super Globe in New York, we won national championships in Canada, and it was all our players that were playing overseas. And Canada didn't let us know about that, the tournament. So 4 days before the tournament, a week before, Beanie emailed me and goes, "Hey, there's only 3 teams. We know you guys are strong. Do you want to come to it?" And we're like, "Oh, we were told there's no competition." Yeah, so we were supposed to be there.
Well, who is this Quebec team? I'd like never even heard of them.
It's just a team it was like an all-star team out of Quebec. But at that nationals, we beat Quebec by like 16 goals.
They did.
And we were supposed to be there, and we have a lot of issues with Canada Handball. And so, yeah, we didn't even know about it.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, so we were pretty, but anyways.
I don't blame you.
Yeah. So now our Alberta program, we were planning to go to USA Nationals. We were told it's going to be Dallas. It was going to be the third weekend in May. So we're set. It works within our schedule, doesn't interfere with our youth programs, our school programs. And then all of a sudden, we're in California, and boom, dates are second weekend in May, Detroit. How did that all come?
Well, it sounds like somebody was running their mouth a little bit sooner than they should have, because it was not confirmed for a while. And it was like, yeah. Well, basically, I don't know. I was not going to go to nationals. I wasn't planning on it. I didn't even want to like host it. But I just thought of the opportunity to transmit some of the production and the theatrics I saw in Europe to American handball, because you've gotten to previous nationals, and it is like, God bless everyone who's worked on it, because it's a thankless job, but like, to be the top competition in the US, it's just like very underwhelming, and the feel is very amateurish, and it's been in smaller venues and smaller markets that don't necessarily get the eyes on the sport that we should have for the national championship at least. So I felt that there was an opportunity there to change things up and to set a new standard for the highest competition in the U.S. And it was going to be excellent. So I approached USA Team Handball. I think it was the last week of December. And I just sent them a proposal for what we were trying to do, and we talked a little bit. And then there were some questions about certain logistics that we answered, and we ended up getting the bid late January, early February. We were pretty much locked and loaded, ready to go. Then good old coronavirus.
So how does it, I don't know if you're allowed to talk about it, but what's how do you guys afford it? Like, is there funding, or does the facility, because that facility you had on your promo video was beautiful. The like how you talked about the big screen outside was going to have games being played.
Yeah.
That's not a cheap facility.
No, but we fortunately the Detroit Sports Commission was like all in on us having that, so they were willing to help negotiate on our behalf for the facility, and we got the facility at like a steal. And the people there were also awesome, and they were willing to work with us, and they thought handball was cool, so they were willing to help us out quite a bit. But I was pounding the pavement with a lot of sponsors, and
Okay.
we were getting close to closing a lot of them, and then obviously Corona happened, so we didn't even need it. But yeah, so long story short, just being able to negotiate and talk to the right people and communicate what we're all about, what we're trying to do.
So do you get funding from USA Handball to host the Nationals?
I shouldn't say no. We funny enough, we were gonna share some of the expenses. And,
What about entry fees? Does that go to you guys?
Nope.
So you guys just, so as Detroit Handball Club, you're just the organizers of it?
Yep.
And they take all the, like, USA Handball's the ones that pay the referees, bring in the courts, the nets, all that kind of stuff?
We were still in the process of really delineating that stuff. So it's hard for me to say, but it's the thing that really stood out to me was just the lack of continuity between previous years. Thankfully I had several people who had done it before and who I could bounce questions off of, but there was no playbook as far as
So there's no hosting package?
Not yet. We're working on
that. Okay, yeah, because that's what you would assume. These are the requirements. This is what you need to be able to host.
Yep.
Yeah.
We figured that out. We learned the hard way. We learned the hard way, and we're gonna make it better for next year.
So did you kind of know how many teams were coming or anything like that?
I thought I did, but then you told me about half of Canada was going to come. I was like, wow, all right.
Yeah, there was Saskatchewan, men and women were coming. The talk was a team from Winnipeg was coming. So, yeah.
Goodness gracious, man. Yeah. That would have been crazy. Yeah, I don't know. It would have been sweet. It would have been really, really sweet. And maybe next year or following year, it'll also be sweet, but.
So the way I hear about it, you host for 3 years?
Not officially. No.
Not officially? Okay.
We haven't gotten that far yet. I think we're just taking things day by day right now, and I'll definitely be a resource for whoever hosts it next year if it's not us. And we just have to think a little bit more longer term.
Okay. And is your plan still this year? Obviously, we have to see what happens with COVID, but is it still to work with Detroit Handball Club, keep on building as much as you can?
You're my role model here, Mike. I want to be where you are at some point soon, hopefully, where this is my job. I mean, I'm still going to school, but right now it's Zoom University, so the commitment of time that it would have taken to have to drive to class and back and all that, like, significantly decreased. So I'm happy because it's more time to work on handball. Like, my dream is to make Detroit the Flensburg of the United States, to just have a fully professional organization and to be more mainstream and to bring in people who want that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And Detroit's the right community for it. I think the people, the way the city is and the demographics, people are open to something like that.
Yeah. So I'm just going to ask you some questions, and it's not to be political. It's just I listen to podcasts, John Ryan, and sometimes I'm just dumbfounded by, I don't know how it works. So I'm really curious to see how funding works and all that. Now, you talked about Detroit sports.
Yeah.
Are you a nonprofit organization?
Nope. We are LLC, so it's a sole proprietorship. It's under a company I started shortly after I went to Denmark, or shortly after I got back, which is the American Handball Company. So
Okay. And there's no funding, like sports organizations, like there must be a Detroit Basketball Association
yeah, I'm sure there is. And I
or
think
Michigan, like there's no funding for organizations there.
can you tell me a little bit, like, so like for Alberta, like does
So
the province fund you guys like
okay, so we're Alberta Team Handball Federation. So we organized, we're the head of any handball. We oversee all the handball in Alberta.
so if I were
So
to go to Alberta and start the Alberta handball,
yeah,
like
Alberta Handball Federation, Alberta Team Handball Federation. So we oversee all the clubs. Sorry?
I can't compete with Alberta handball. Like I can't like go and start a competitive organ. Okay.
Well, you could, but we're the ones that we've been approved by the government. We get funding from the government.
Interesting.
So you don't have that for your state, that like there's organizations that they have to get funding. Like how would Michigan is your state, correct?
Yeah.
So there's no Michigan State Basketball Association?
There might be, but I think the way those guys, the way I understand a lot of the stuff is for like there's no governing body for the sport of basketball in Michigan. Is that what you're asking? Like there's
Yeah.
no, yeah. I mean, as far as I'm aware, there's the high school athletic association. I'm sure they get some sort of funding from the state, and they have, I guess, a little bit of a monopoly on high school sports. So like, if one high school wanted to play the other in soccer, like
Yeah.
they typically compete through the MHSAA. But for guys like me,
But that doesn't make sense because where would the high school basketball association get the referees from? They have to be they have to be they have to be certified by the state somehow. You have to
eh,
have.
they're certified by the MHSCA, so they certify their own refs.
And
They're
who would ref the clubs?
we're working on that, right? We're working on that.
Because again, I don't have a clue. I just like
Yeah,
listen, and it's just weird to find that like there's no funding in the states.
I mean, private enterprise is it's interesting. Just being
Okay.
having to sort of bootstrap it and figure out a way, and that's a world many of us in handball are navigating in the
Yeah.
states, is just how to survive as an organization, independent of any governing body or you know other organization that would provide financial support. Like in a perfect world, maybe USA Team Handball would give a stipend for every club.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's just not a practical
Yeah.
notion, not now or I think ever. And frankly, I kind of appreciate the challenge of having to solve the problem of no funding
Yeah.
on my own. And it's good to kind of cut your teeth on I don't know, just solving business problems. And
Yeah. But yeah, I don't. It just there has to be like um, in your government.
mhm.
Is there not a sports sector?
There's no minister of sport, so even our Olympic
Oh.
committee is there's no minister of sport. There's no ministry of funding sports or
Oh.
overseeing. I think if anything, it would maybe fall under the some kind of health department, but even then, I think that's a little bit of a stretch. I think mostly
Okay.
sports in the U.S. are privately funded and private
Oh.
enterprise.
Okay. So pretty much sports organizations or people are on their own to start.
Yeah,
Can someone else start? So can someone else come in and go, I want to start a new USA team handball?
in theory, they would have to. So for that to even be relevant, like I could right now just like poof, like organize a organization and do that, but it would have no credibility because it's not recognized by the U.S. Olympic Committee,
Okay.
and that's where USA Team Handball is right now. They are the official Olympic committee of both the U.S. Olympic Committee as well as the IHF and all other relevant handball
Okay.
bodies.
Okay. So then do you guys have membership fees?
For USA Team Handball,
Oh, what about your club?
Nope. Not, we haven't gotten to that point yet.
Okay.
We're working on how
But
to
that's
recommend it.
a plan.
Yeah, that's part of the plan. But what point did you get to before you started charging membership fees?
We started day one.
Dang. All right.
It just, in like our opinion, in me, I just started and I went full bore. So it started off slowly, but we need that money to be able, like a lot of talk in USA from what I hear is we don't have money to do this, we don't have money to do that.
Yeah.
But that's what that membership is that, like in our membership, you have your membership has discounts for restaurants, things like that. So like you guys have like
Yeah.
the membership perks. But that funding brings us a lot of our funding. Like, you're looking at, we charge approximately average of $90 per membership fee per person for a season. And if you, sorry,
How long does the season last?
well, like there's different sectors, but like our high level athletes train 12 months out of the season.
Okay.
So they maybe get like, Christmas break here, a little bit breaks after national championships, a couple of breaks, but any high level, then we have like different individual programs, academies that we run. So they got to be a member to be able to do all that. So that we have like a membership timeline, but that's a lot of funding. So you guys pay a membership to USA Handball.
Yeah.
Now, where does Detroit Handball get the money to pay that membership?
Me.
So
Me.
yeah, okay.
I'm pretty much sponsoring the club financially at this point. Over the past year, the plan was to sort of get a feel of what is practical at a small scale as far as asking people to pay, because a big problem for us, or maybe it's just psychological. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm thinking out loud here, but there's a big hesitation to have people pay for handball because we just see how minute the sport is and how nobody knows what it is. But with something like the leagues, where if you can pay for, you know what you're signing up for when you pay a certain amount of money at the beginning of a league, right? And you may not know how to play, but you're competing and you're you're invested, and there is a financial exchange there, because that's paying for adult rec sports is not uncommon. So that's one model I've been thinking about, but yeah, membership fees might be on the horizon here. We'll see. And it's tough for me too, just personally, because if somebody like kind of stumbles upon us and wants to just give it a shot and isn't quite sure if they want to join, like I don't want to be a gatekeeper. I don't want money to be a gatekeeper at that point.
Yeah.
We can figure out.
But again, these are just my thoughts because I listen to it a lot. But then we have membership structure. So you have like a tryout fee. Then you have certain amount of practices where you pay a minimal amount. But I mean, you can see how much you love handball, right? You're paying your own money to do it. But my suggestion to you is, if you make it very cheap at the very start where like it's almost free, you're going to have trouble for them paying later on.
Interesting.
Because then there'd be like, why do I need to pay now?
Yeah.
So, and I'm not saying like you charge crazy amounts, but you have your overhead, you have your membership. So now, again, you don't have to answer any of these questions if you don't want to. But
can I just counter to a lot of your stuff? A lot of your members come from schools, right?
Schools, yeah.
Like you're pretty much in every school in Alberta, as far as like
we're part of, like, it took us about 10 years.
Okay.
But we applied to become like in the Alberta Athletic High School Association.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay.
So when we got in there, then all the schools know about us. Not every school plays it, but it's out there in all the zones and everything. And we applied and we got into the Alberta Summer Games. And so kind of there. And our thought is like mini handball. We go to schools and do clinics. And again, these are my thoughts. I heard that podcast with Martin, but they say they do clinics, which is great. But what do you do after the clinic? So if like we do clinics, but we say we offer a mini handball festival. So the festival is all those schools. We say, hey, listen, the first one, $5 fee. You get a T-shirt, you get a lunch, and you play handball all day. We have 40, 50 teams, but it's not you that coach. It's the school that has to, the teacher from the school. So our thing is, you want a clinic? We'll do a clinic, but then you need to come to this festival.
Interesting. So you have
And so
schools
then we have that.
having a
So,
clinic.
sorry?
Like schools ask you, like, hey, can you come to a clinic at?
Well, I contact schools. We have like I'll contact at the beginning of every season. I will contact all the schools in Alberta and offer it, but it's not for free. It's if they don't want to go to a festival, then they have to pay us a certain amount. It's like $100 every hour and a half.
Interesting.
So, but then if they come, but it's a teacher that has to teach them, and then they have this big festival with 500 kids that are mini handball, and we start off in regions, and then they play and the kids love it. Then it gets to the parents. It's packed house, and then we have our provincials. So then it gets like people involved.
Yeah.
So like, but what I always hear from the states is like, yeah, well, I do these clinics. Well, you can do 4 million clinics, but you're not doing anything after the clinic. So the kid goes home and goes, oh, this fun sport handball. Okay, is there any information about it? No.
Nope.
So it's yeah, it's about the, for me anyways, it's you have to invest and you have to give something to them to get them involved, to get those teachers involved, into getting the parents involved. And when when you start at high school, uh, teachers are scared of handball almost because they don't know it. So
Yeah.
they don't want to start coaching. But at mini handball, it's 3 steps: you pass, you catch, no contact.
That was the thinking with 3v3, because
Yeah,
I'm scared to coach handball, and so that's
yeah,
just, not only do I not have to coach because it's just different teams playing, but the rules are just so easy that you don't even have to
yeah,
referee basically, except for a few instances where you get some elbows going.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, like that's brilliant. That's really,
yeah.
I like
What? So does now you guys pay membership fee to USA Handball,
that.
and what do they give you for the membership fee?
Before this year, the privilege and honor of being able to support USA Team Handball is what you would get in exchange.
Okay.
The only time I would actually become a member would be like the day before a junior national team competition, when they would read off a list of guys who were not members, and say, hey, go online, pay your $100, and see you in the game tomorrow.
So,
So that was a big thing. I'm very happy with Melissa and Emily as far as what they've been doing with
yeah.
making, at least trying to incentivize membership in the organization.
What about the Europeans? Do they pay the membership fee?
I don't know. I never asked. I'm sure they did
Okay.
for junior national team competition. Well, they're Americans too, mind you. They
Yeah, yeah, the American. Well, then they should pay membership fees. Yeah.
have right.
um,
Yeah, yeah,
okay. So, do with your club? Do you get a lot of help from USA Handball?
yeah. Recently, I mean, I only officially became a member, right when COVID happened. So there hasn't been much to help with, but the
Okay.
stuff that I have seen, and you get a seat at the table too. At least when Barry was still around, where he would bring you in on calls and just check in on how you're doing. And it sounds like they're cooking up some other good stuff for members. So
Okay.
yeah, we'll wait and see. I mean, I'm not I'm not waiting around and seeing
Yeah.
what's going to happen. I'm just going to kind of keep doing what we're doing, and hopefully what we're doing aligns with USA Team Handball.
And another big thing you came out with, and I think it was just the start of COVID. You kind of put it out. You're going to start a big, almost like a Champions League.
Yep. We're still hoping that can happen. But yeah, that was going to be our season. I put together a sort of quasi exhibition season
Yeah.
beginning in March, about the week before. Like everything happened. Like,
Yeah.
oh, it's okay. It'll be a good chapter for the book in a few years. But yeah, basically there's the Midwest Team Handball League, which is a
Yeah.
similar format to how things have just been done and throughout the country and throughout the years, where you meet in Chicago for a weekend and then you play 3 games Saturday, and the results of those 3 games are sort of like the results for the Midwest League, and then maybe you'll meet a month or two after that. But I don't know, after going to Denmark and just seeing, like, not even just going to Denmark, but just playing like competitive sports in college and just seeing that, real quality athletes like aren't playing at 8 a.m. and then playing at 12. That's like middle school. That's middle school stuff. Like, we can do better than that
Yeah.
as far as the sport of handball. And I understand there's practical limitations, but we came up with that league as a way of really intentionally trying to get these games to be productions and to be quality competitions without being, I don't know, cost prohibitive and time prohibitive.
Yeah.
Because I mean, most of the teams that are going to be in this are within a day's drive, so you can make the effort to at least spend one night. You don't have to spend a whole weekend, or you can just make it a day trip. But we just really want these to be semi-professional in production.
Okay. And how did it go with the other clubs? Was the thought like people were pretty excited about it?
Yeah, absolutely. The everyone in the Midwest has a very good relationship. Like, there's a lot of mutual respect between the guys who run the clubs from Minnesota to Pennsylvania and from Michigan to Ohio and Illinois. Like, we all know each other. We all communicate because over the years, at some point, we probably played for each other. When somebody
Yeah.
needs an extra player, so you get to know people, and everyone's on board and everyone's very supportive of it. And they just want something different. It's exhausting. The current format that we have for handball. It's just not the reward of playing handball in and of itself can waver to a degree when it's just such a grind. So we want to make it more of a celebration as opposed to a
Okay.
grind.
And how far of drives, like what would be the farthest drive?
For Minnesota, we would probably have to fly, but
Okay.
the way we're going to structure it is the teams that are closer to Minnesota are going to play them in the first few rounds, and then we might have like a neutral site for as we get higher up in the tournament, and then the championship's supposed to be in Detroit, conveniently enough, so that we want to minimize the travel, but also just maximize the quality, not even the quantity. Just like, if we know, like Columbus, it's hard for them to bail on a game if we schedule it like a month in advance, and like they all know, we all know, because it's really not so far of a drive. 3-4 hours is pretty far, but like compared to going to Chicago or something, it's not terrible. So
Yeah.
if we have a game against Columbus and we get the music and like get actual referees and
Yeah.
just really do everything we can to make that environment something that is special. Like, I can't think of the last time I've had a handball game in the U.S. where there's been people there and there's been music playing. Like,
Yeah.
you go to these tournaments, there's not even music playing. Just play,
No.
like, put the
Yeah.
radio on over the loudspeaker.
Yeah.
Like,
Exactly.
it adds so much. It just adds. It's the little things that just transform an experience and make it worthwhile for the athletes. Which
Yeah.
is,
Yeah. Well, I heard your podcast with his name is Chris on the weekend,
oh yeah, Chris O'Reilly. Yeah,
and JD was saying the one team was asking to move college nationals because there was an exhibition football game.
that's just laughable. Yeah, that's just like
Yeah.
the,
Uh,
the stuff
I
you
found
see
that
from these
I
people.
found that pretty funny. So now you have a podcast, and how's that going?
It's fun. I'm really enjoying it. We're getting cool people like you to come on and have some great conversations, both for our benefit as well as I think for the benefit of greater handball kind. We kind of use the podcast as a pretense just to have conversations with guys like you and Chris and a bunch of other cool people.
And is it getting well received?
So far, so good. Yeah.
Why aren't you guys on like Spotify and stuff?
Um, we're working on that right now. I
Okay.
personally, I kind of like I do it for fun, quite
Yeah.
frankly. It's more of JD's baby. Like,
Okay.
it's JD's podcast that he lets me, talk on. But For me personally, I mean, put them all on YouTube, and YouTube's easy enough to find, and
Yeah.
I think it adds to the mystique of
Well, it just pisses me off because I listened to you. The one that you just did was 2.5 hours. I'm listening in my car on data. And I was like, oh, God.
it. Sorry.
No, I like it. I find it because JD is like very like calm, no emotions, and you're just fired up when you agree with the guest. You're like in the camera. You're like, yes, yes. I think it's awesome.
You don't get the full experience on Spotify. You don't get to see the
Yeah.
full so.
I love it. I think it's awesome. I listen to him all the time. It's good, and you have different kind of people on, which is it's great.
Yeah, thanks. And again, that kind of goes back to the pretense of like we want to um, get more people invested or at least aware of handball. And so by having like the guys from that Tigers podcast or
Yeah,
the woman who started the futsal club in Columbus, like we talk for an hour, we get some good information out of it, and then they can kind of promote their brand to the tens of people who listen, and then we can also they promote that to their following. So now their following is at least aware that handball exists.
yeah, it's great. Do you have any big guests coming on soon, or do you guys can't announce that, or?
We got some great ones coming up, but we want to keep it a secret.
Oh, you don't? Yeah, because you guys don't promote like, hey, this guest is on Saturday night.
Nope, it would take away from the allure.
Yeah, it's true because it upsets me, and then I'm like, hey, I had to download Twitch, and
Oh
then
yeah,
if I can't, then I'm like refreshing about 20, 30 minutes after your podcast. I'm refreshing, like it's not uploaded yet. It's good. I enjoy it a lot.
yeah. Because I mean, if we got like if it was just me and JD and we announce it, like nobody's gonna listen. So it's a wild card every time you log on. It incentivizes people to listen.
Yeah, yeah. Last couple of questions is what do you think's the you need to do to really grow handball in Detroit? What are some of the projects you have in place or going to have in place to really try to grow that sport?
I don't want to jinx anything, but we've got some good things going on. But I think ultimately, um, for lack of a better term, just make the sport appealing. Make it, I
Yeah,
don't want to say sexy, but like make handball sexy. Like it's just so
yeah,
uninspiring the way it has been in the past,
yeah,
um, and with exception. But for me, and it goes back to I was prepared to just completely be done with the sport after Denmark
yeah,
until Barry kind of inspired me and like kind of lit the fire. So I just want to like light the fire for people in Detroit and make it something that the city can be proud of, whether you're care about the team or not. Just to be aware that Detroit has a handball team and we
yeah.
got a badass handball team would be it's my ultimate goal and my ultimate aspiration. Short term though, just waiting for COVID to just stop being a thing,
Yeah.
and then go back to plugging away and trying to recruit more people. How
Do you
about
have
you?
help? Do you have
Oh,
help?
yeah, my brothers actually. So the guy who was on the video, and then my four younger brothers have been extremely helpful. In addition to that, we have a few people within the club who are just like they've just been ride or die throughout Corona, and like every opportunity they have had to help, they've been like mind-blowingly helpful. It's been great. So I've got a great team of people here, and
That's good.
we
That's
think
what
that
you need. You can't do it yourself. So,
yes,
or you're
absolutely.
gonna handball. The one thing I learned it's there's only a few people that really love it. And so, like someone that if you build Detroit Handball Club and you decide one day I don't want to do it, that club is gone.
Yes, or the John Ryan, the hit by the bus
Yeah,
problem, where if thankfully I'm unemployed because of it, but if I got relocated or had to move, like that would be bad. But Detroit's my home. I'm gonna stay here until I literally get hit by a bus, and then um, yeah, this thing is I'm in this for the long haul.
how about women's teams?
That's so Mike, I had this like whole like list of goals with a timeline, and like one of them was to have a full on like professional women's team within the next few years, because again there's an opportunity there where ECAST, for example, ECAST has a professional women's team. You take the 14-year-old girls in that system, bring them to the U.S., and they're going to win. Like, they will be the best women's team in
Yeah.
America. Like, there's like 2 women's teams.
Yeah.
Maybe less than 5. There's less than 5 women's teams. Like, there's an opportunity for the city of Detroit to have a national championship in a women's sport, which is just incredible. Like, it's that was another thing too that I took away from Denmark, was just like how inspiring and amazing women's handball is. It's unbelievable. It's like I'm more of a women's handball fan than I am of the men. Like, it was just so, it was fun to watch. So definitely on the horizon right now. The interest is just not there. We just have mainly men. But once people become more aware of what we're doing, what we're trying to do, once we have a competitive season again, and once things go back to normal, that's high on the priority list.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Women's we're lucky for some reason. We're bigger in women than men in Alberta.
It makes sense.
It just, I was surprised. We went through, it was harder to get the women, but now, like, we start at a young age, so the girls are really picking that sport over. But
awesome.
Yeah,
it's cool too. The thing I like is, like, with lacrosse, women's lacrosse and men's lacrosse are just fundamentally different sports.
Totally different.
It's the same thing with handball. Like, you could, like, there's a rare opportunity for women in sports to really just, like, get after it and, like, play a six sport. Like, I don't know. I think there's, as far as, like, the women's game goes, I've got 2 philosophies, I guess, about this. Like, I think beach handball is, like, really going to be a catalyst for growth in the U.S. And I also think women's handball will take off faster and bigger than men's in the United States.
Well, there's not as many opportunities in women's sports. Exactly. So, like, a woman being able to go to Europe to make some money, it's enticing.
I would say, like, the women's professional handball league in Denmark has, like, a bigger and cooler following than even the WNBA in the U.S. Like, it's unlike anything I've ever seen before. It's awesome. I really, thank you for asking that.
The last question, and again, I don't know how it is there, and I'm not trying to be political, but I have my idea of, like, watching USA Ham. As you as a player, going to Denmark, trying to do everything to better yourself, coming back and there's nothing really for your age category for training. And then USA Handball investing everything into the American European players. Do you find that a lot of the athletes your age that have potential in handball stop really pushing themselves because they know the chances of them making the national team are slim because the resources aren't the same?
Yeah, so it's kind of a weird answer to that, but honestly, Mike, I think I am the only 23 to 24-year-old, like, handball player that I know of in the entire country. Like, I don't know, I can't name a single guy who's, like, my age, except for, like, the 2 guys I went to Denmark with, and maybe there's a few more, but like there's, like, just so few people already that I don't think that necessarily makes a difference. Is it frustrating sometimes to see? I guess, because it would have been great to just be able to be on, like, a JV, or not JV team, but, like, just to be in a system for a big club, like, even like Skiern. But I'm happy for the guys that they're having that opportunity, because frankly, like, they talent for talent, pound for pound, like,
they're a great team
more than I do. Yeah, so
they're fantastic.
It makes sense. But it would be great to see, Drew and Ty. I want to see more of that. But there's guys like Mike Lee, who was a product of the Auburn program. He did what I did, just found an opportunity himself and took the plunge and is making the most of it. So we just need more people playing my age. Like, it's just
but how can they play when anyone that has potential gets sent away?
How so?
So, like, I believe handball is going to always be a small community. Even when you look in Europe, it's the small cities that have the big clubs.
Yep.
But for anything to grow, you're going to have someone like you that has had an experience with USA Handball that's going to come back and build a club.
Yeah.
But if everything is overseas, there's no growth in the States, because none of them will become coaches in the States.
Yep.
None of them will build a club in the States. So it's kind of like, again, that's where I just have no clue how USA sports work, because I think the ultimate goal is you don't care about anything except the gold medal.
And to be honest, as an Olympic governing body, that
Yeah.
at the end of the day is the business they're in, is to compete well at an international level, and that's their primary concern. And thankfully, Barry was aware of that, and Barry was making strides to kind of grow the game here. But it's really going to, at the end of the day, come down to people who are willing to invest the time and energy and heartbreak themselves to develop an infrastructure in their respective communities in the U.S. It's try to take one bite out of the entire United States is madness. Like, imagine trying to just, we're the size of Europe essentially. Like, I can't imagine Spain trying to tell Finland, how they should run their programs or whatever. Like, there's certain synergies that they have, and there's certain things that they can collaborate on. But at the end of the day, like, Michigan has to take care of Michigan. Ohio has to take care of Ohio. Like, you can have all these great plans and these great, PowerPoints, but if nobody's, going to the boys and girls clubs themselves and saying, I will sit here for 2 hours, and if there's 2 kids, I don't care, I'm going to teach them handball every day for however long it takes, it's just simply not going to happen. And that's where we are today. I don't want to say nobody. There have been a few people who have tried to take the initiative and who have gotten certain progress, but again, it's exhausting. It's a lot of resources. It's a lot of time. And unless you see the opportunity in it from a business perspective or what have you, altruism can only take you so far. You can't, it's hard to make a difference when you don't have anything making it sustainable. So it's sustainable and to make it practical is my objective. And again, I'm a student right now, but once I'm out of school, like, this is full bore. This is what I'm going to try to do for my.
So you believe, like, I talked to Barry a couple times, and he uplifts you. He gets you excited for things.
For sure.
But no matter who the next CEO is, it's not someone that's ever going to be able to change all of handball. You think it's the states that, or the clubs that are going to be the ones that really have to want to make it bigger.
For fear of trying to sound like John Ryan, I think though, if the CEO of USA Team Handball, whoever comes in next, gets Champions League games on TV, they will be doing the sport. That will be the most effective thing that they could ever do, is just to get it on TV and to somehow get it to a mass media medium and get people watching it like they watch frickin' cornhole. We got cornhole on ESPN. Can you believe that? Like, whoever comes in next, like, if they accomplish that, and if they get people turning into Flensburg fans or Skiern fans, like, dream world. That's the dream. Not aside from soccer, like, nobody really cares about the national team for anything. Like, however, just you have to get them invested in the sport beyond just the Olympics or the national team.
So I promise, last question. I just want to go from there. So now you get into Champions League. Okay, you guys get it on TV. Now there's 500 kids, parents that call the clubs. What are the clubs going to do? Where's the organization within the clubs to be able to run stuff?
Yep.
Like, it was perfect. I listened to the Martin talk, and everyone's passionate, but there's no structure. I'm not trying to bash them at all. It's just my view. I don't know anything about USA, so I'd love to listen and kind of debate on my own. But even if you get that on, but there's 500 kids come and say, hey, in Detroit, okay, we want to start something. Okay, can you help us with referees? No, we don't have no certification program. We have nothing we could offer you to build referees. Okay, what about coaching certifications? Well, not really much. What about, structure? So really, even if you get in those.
You're assuming I don't have the stuff locked and loaded already, Mike.
You do? Oh, good. That's good. But yeah, so that's just listen to that, like, them talk. You also, like, you want to do those things, but you have to make sure on your end that you have everything ready.
One thing you're forgetting about too is, like, so with the Olympics, that happens every 4 years. That
Yeah.
happens literally every 4 years for 2 weeks and maybe a month after the Olympics.
Yeah.
You get hundreds, if not thousands, of people reaching out, and there's no infrastructure, so they just go away. The thing with having professional teams on is they play from what, like August through May. Like
Yeah.
over time, you're going to be repeatedly. It's going to be repeatedly put on people's minds, and at some point, there will be somebody who's maybe not crazy enough about handball, but crazy enough to, or in a position to where they could make a decision and be like the head of the MHSAA for Michigan, just say, oh, we could like offer this as a club sport, or if you own a volleyball facility, oh, like you can throw some handball nets in here and create a league. It takes no mental power to create a 3v3 handball league.
Yeah.
It's effortless, and then you can get guys who have been around the sport and who know the sport. To provide a little bit extra expertise and some extra training and what have you for people who want to take to the next level or professionalize it a little, even just a little bit more. But as a kid, I played rec hockey. Like I played for my city had a hockey club that had like 8 different little kid teams that you played against each other, and it was a meaningless league looking back. But like when you're a little kid and you're playing in a league and you're playing, there's a championship on the line. It might as well be the Stanley Cup. Like
Exactly.
you just package it in a way and you design a program that gets kids to believe that they're playing, in the Olympics or in the Champions League. Like you're going to create a lifelong, like there was a lot that I rolled my eyes at for the youth development roundtable, but there was a lot that I took away and was like, okay, like that's actually constructive, insightful. And one of them was creating just lifelong handball people. So even if that kid isn't a handball player after age 12, he can watch a handball game and be like, I know what's going on. Like with hockey, with me, I haven't picked up a hockey stick since I was 13, but I can watch a hockey game and appreciate it to a certain degree because I played it for a few years and played it competitively.
But you still have to, when you have a youth player or athlete that's 12, 13 years old, that's when they start really picking their sports.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, he can watch handball, but for him to want to play handball, there needs to be structure. And like you say the Olympics, I always on the USA handball site after the Olympics, this is how many emails we've received. Where do all those people go? Does anyone look back and go, what did we do wrong with where all these players have gone, or people interested?
Yeah, nobody, as far as I'm aware, you know where those people go, Mike? They go back to Twitter 4 years later saying, if I had been on the Olympics, I would have been here. I would have been a gold medalist. But I can't be concerned about what's going on in Bismarck, North Dakota. But if there's somebody in the state of Michigan or the city of Detroit who's interested in handball, who reaches out to me, like I will never stop pursuing them until they like call the police on me as far as handball goes. Like if they want an opportunity to play, I will create an opportunity, whether that's a 3v3 in a freaking parking lot or, eventually we're going to do some bigger and better things. And
so your focus is your area.
There's the population of Denmark, Mike, lives within an hour radius of me. Like, again, there's like this regional, like Iceland approach debate that goes on with handball. Like, I'm kind of a subscriber to that. Like, if Bismarck, North Dakota can't produce a handball player, that's fine. Like, we have enough people within just Detroit, not talking about Grand Rapids or Lansing or anywhere else in the state of Michigan, just Metro Detroit area, we have the same population, probably more athleticism than the best country in the world, Denmark. We can at least put together a team of Detroit-based people who could beat Cuba, or at least be competitive in the Western Hemisphere, in my opinion, in the long run. I'm not saying right now. I'm not saying in a year. Over time.
So, why do you have 5 more minutes? I'm really interested in this.
The rest of the day, Mike.
Okay. But why did you start Detroit Handball Club and not Michigan Handball Association? Because wouldn't then you be opening yourself up for the whole state?
That is a great question, actually. And I wanted to start. It goes back to I wanted to clear the fence before I got
Yeah,
to.
yeah.
I want to conquer sort of Detroit before I start setting my sights bigger. But we've already got stuff cooking in other cities, right? Just by
Okay.
virtue of having the biggest city in Detroit do something, and Michigan isn't so big to where I can't drive to the other side in a
Yeah.
few hours. So if somebody in Grand Rapids calls me up, I will be there immediately and we can
But
work together.
think of me as I have no clue, right? I'm just kind of
Yeah,
looking like our way and how we have sports compared to USA. But then if you start Michigan Handball Association,
mhm,
now you can start a Detroit Handball Club. But now Michigan is the governing body for them. Then you have another club, but then you have a governing body that oversees the whole area. So you could have Michigan, like our league is called the Alberta Team Handball League. So
yeah,
an Edmonton club has to drive 3.5 hours to Calgary to play one game on a Friday night, Saturday. So
yeah,
we have teams in different areas in Alberta, club teams,
sure.
and you play one game. So you drive 3 hours to play one game. Uh, but like again, I just don't know. But wouldn't it be like you have your clubs and they're governed by the state? So like Detroit Handball Club pays a membership to Michigan Handball Association, which then the associations pay a membership to the USA Handball.
Yeah,
Just right, like in Germany, I coach in Germany. You have your clubs, and there's the regions. So you have your clubs that play within the regions, and you have to win your region to move on to Div One. So then you would have your clubs that are over governed by Michigan, and then USA Handball governs Michigan. Is that not how sports works there?
no, no, not
Okay.
necessarily. Oh, at least not with handball. Handball is
Okay.
like the Wild West in the United States, Mike. Like
Yeah.
there's a high school team handball league in Maryland. Within a small school district in Maryland that every
Uh,
year plays. It's actually really cool. They do mixed special needs and
oh wow.
you know yeah. So it's a very cool league and they very successful. And you can go on YouTube and look at some of the interviews these kids do, and they look like handball's their favorite sport. Like at this little school
Yeah.
district, like USA Team Handball. I don't even know if they're aware of that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, like the U.S. is just so gigantic, and the way the structures are too. Like
Yeah.
for instance, I don't know. Generally, like kids play competitive sports in school during their school season, and then they'll play travel whatever sport
Yeah.
during the summers or whenever the off season will be.
Yeah.
I see my role, at least currently, as filling this sort of travel role right now. The hurdles to get into schools are just gigantic at this point for the sport, for me personally as well.
Yeah.
Um, and so if I can create an entity that is meaningful for people to be a part of, that's the lowest cost to me, energy and financially, but
Yeah.
also just the most to represent Detroit. Aside from the Pistons, the Red Wings, the Tigers, like very few people get to have Detroit across their
Yeah.
chest, right?
Yeah.
Whereas Michigan, it's a little bit more watered down than that.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, I'm kind of rambling right now, but
No,
I hope
no.
I'm sort of conveying
Yeah.
why we're focused more on Detroit, at least for right now.
Yeah. And I'm not trying to say what's doing it wrong. It's just I'm trying to because listening to you what I know about the USA, there's so many people in handball and they all have different ideas of how handball should work. And I listen to it all, but I just don't have a clue what the reality is, like how structure works.
Neither do a lot of these people. But hey, at
Okay.
the end of the day, what
Yeah.
I keep telling myself is like, yeah, there's so much, there's a lot of noise out there. At the end of the day, we'll see who's still standing in 5, 10, 15 years, and we'll see who's still working on stuff. And
Yeah.
hopefully it's everyone. Honestly, it'd be great to see everyone succeed, but for the amount of talking that a lot of people do, we'll see what comes of it. Because there's been a lot of talk since the year I was born, 1996. The last time we were in the Olympics, like people have been talking ad nauseum for my entire lifetime. And right now, what do we have to show for it? Like, not a whole lot.
Yeah.
Nothing. I would venture to say absolutely nothing to show for it, because we're not even close to being, for a country of 300 million people, we are in a different galaxy as a country of 6 million people.
Yeah. And so do you think, are you interested to grow with the sport? Like, is that one of your passions, to become a full-time handball administrator, a president? Is that one of your ultimate goals?
Yeah, 100%. That I want my career to be in handball. Like, I don't, as far as like, it might just be me personally. It might just be this little teenage rebelliousness at age 24, but I don't necessarily want to work for anyone. I don't want to be an employee, but I want this to be, I want to start this in the US and hopefully have some employees of myself and just see where this takes me. I mean, again, this, I keep saying again that this goes back to, but it's true. So like, when I was in Denmark, I was thinking, okay, I could get to a level competitively by age 30 if I really, really gave all my effort, or I could go to the US and give all my effort to growing the sport. And then by age 30, you know, I'm not going to be a professional player. I won't be in the Olympics, but I'll have something tangible to show for my effort, and I'll leave. Hopefully I won't leave the sport, but I'll be in a better place with the sport than I would have been, you know, had I, you know, gone and become a superstar Champions League player. Right.
Yeah.
So, and even then too, I could spend my 20s grinding away in Europe and having fun and having a great experience. But there's no guarantee I'm accomplish the goal of going to the Olympics or the Champions League or whatever.
And
Like, at the end of the day, those decisions are out of my hands. I don't pick
yeah,
the Olympic team, and I can't control what other people do. I was in Denmark and I found out. So remember how I said there wasn't any under 23 handball players in the U.S.?
yeah,
Well, I was literally like over in Europe, and there was an under 23 national team tournament. And I was like, all right, a shoe in, like freaking 5 days a week, 6 days a week. Gosh darn it, doing handball. Roster comes out, and they use an age exception for the goalie. So like that was actually a very transformational moment for me, because I definitely realized like, wow, I can have all these goals. At the end of the day, it's out of my hands. So what can I control? I can control like the effort I do in the U.S. and the development stuff, and I can focus on what I can control and not what I can't control.
yeah. You hit it on the head, and it's something that I've really worked on and our organization's worked on the last few years, is that our sports, we always look at just the top end athletes. But when you look at it, those top end athletes are not the ones that are going to come back and be the coaches and going to be the volunteers and the referees. And we, in our sport, in USA and Canada, we lose so many of the players that just love the sport because we invest only on the players. We go, oh, that player can make it. And then the problem is that, and this is something we've changed, and that's why in our younger program, they have to take coaching courses, they have to take reffing courses, all those kind of courses, because you said it perfectly. I'm probably not making the Olympics with what the US is doing right now with their athletes, but you imagine that all those players your age that came through the national or did some of the national team, if they were involved and if they gave back, that's where I think the importance of giving more to them and education to them would be
Yes.
more helpful.
And can I tell you too, when I would go down to Auburn, several times I went down with buddies who started clubs throughout the Midwest, right? And these were people who like same level, if not more enthusiasm than I had. And it was unfortunate because I would go down there and then you would see throughout like the tryout or whatever, like they would kind of group the people who they were interested in one group and the other, you know, not so much. And then at the end of the weekends, like this happened to several of my friends. They like are kind of told like, hey, thanks for coming out. You know, don't let the door hit you on the way out. And that like heart broke, like shattered them. And these guys who were like so on fire about the sport just popped their balloon completely. And there's no resources, there was no support going forward. And these are guys who would have done some incredible stuff in some great places that could really, handball could have taken off. But because, you know, I don't know, that's just the way it is at the national team level, obviously. But like, again, there were 12 people at this program. Like they could have had these tryouts and taken everyone and maybe if they didn't even move down there, it still would have felt good to be invited, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, it's just
Well, even those players, like you had them there, and obviously those people have sacrificed their lives for handball. How come there was no referee certification for them, coaches certification? You should have used them as teaching them to become administrators, coaches, because I mean we were there. I think 3-4 times with Alberta, and you would go year to year, and it was a whole new group. But then when the roster would be sent out for the a competition, 80% wouldn't be on the team. So then they would say, "I risked my life, and I'm not on the team. I'm leaving."
yep. And then what stake do they have after, like, they go there to accomplish a goal and like the goal's gone, so now what? All right, later, handball.
Yeah, so exactly, and you didn't teach them, and that's where I think we all have to work harder. It's the middle people. It's the people that love the sport that are not going to be the national team athletes. Well, good to have those goals and to work, but if they don't make it, they have to have some other way to be involved in the sport,
Yep.
and that's where the more of the education and the programs need to get stronger.
Mm-hmm.
Because you go on the USA site or Canada site, it's all talking about national team or the national championships, but not a lot of education.
Yeah, and it's in the US, I can't even imagine a 15-year-old like deciding like he wants to become a coach. But in Denmark and in
Yeah.
Europe, I'm not sure how it is in Canada, but like people are like making the decision at age 15,
Yeah.
16, 17, like, no, I'd rather just be like a
Yeah.
coach or a ref. Like
Yeah.
in the US, like you'd be a crazy person. Like I think you would actually probably get bullied if that was like your
Yeah.
your choice. I so seldom hear about that. And
Yeah.
you drop off most people after high school, and then the rest basically after college of sports, and then that's it. You just kind of like go to your adult rec league kickball league on Monday nights and wait for your kids to start playing sports so that you can coach them. But there's no
Exactly.
certification, there's no education. Like
Yeah.
just a very interesting setup.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
and
like.
that's what, like, I mean, that's what we do. Um, we go to Europe with our U16s and U14s and U18s, but we mandate that the head coach of a U16 and U14 team, their assistant coach has to be between 18 and 21. And then, like in our U13 leagues, all the coaches are 15, 16 years old.
And what happens if somebody shows up and they don't have a assistant coach that's that age?
Well, it's our job.
Okay.
So it's one of my jobs is to make sure they have it. But we have the youth development program, which travels to Europe. But the first year handball players, if they show up to trials with good attitude, if they come with any kind of good attitude, hard work, we take them on the first trip. Because again, some we know that are going to become great handball players. Some we know that this is going to be an experience of a lifetime, but they're just going to be club players. But then that's where, okay, now, those are the ones that are going to become the coaches. Those are the ones that are going to become the referees. So within that youth development program, they have to volunteer a certain amount of hours. They got to take a coaching course. They have to take a reffing course because we're hoping to build them that, okay, well, if I'm not going to make our elite provincial team that's now trying to, finishing top 5 in Partilla, these kind of things, I have other directions. I can still go to Europe as a coach.
Don't I see, like, people forget about that. In the Olympics too, in LA 2028, they're going to need American, referees. So your odds of going to the Olympics as a referee, there's less than I can count the amount of American-born referees on one hand right now. I actually think there's maybe one or two. Like there's so many opportunities to get the experiences that you want from the sport without actually being a player. It's I love what you're doing, and I'm actually this required coaching and reffing thing. Like once we get rolling with some youth stuff, that's gonna be a thing for us.
That's what we like now. It's just coming this year. We started Alberta an Alberta academy, so it's our U16s, our players. They train individual trainings twice a week, but then it's free. But they have to ref certain amount of games. They have to take the course. They got to be certified as a coach. So they're going to get the training for free, but we're going to make sure that they get that education.
Yeah.
And that because like, again, I was the perfect example. When I came, it was elite, elite, elite. Who cares about the second tier? But then in the last, when we started growing, and I have to travel 3 hours to ref a high school game because we don't have referees in that zone. And then at the point where, yes, now we're known in Alberta, and now we attract from all over. But you got to be prepared for that because you have one chance. So like the Olympics,
Yeah.
as soon as the Olympics is over and you guys get that big wave, you have one chance to get those players to commit, and those players end up not committing, right, in the States. So you have to be ready. And so if an area in Michigan says, hey, we want to start a team, you have to be going, or USA Handball has to say, okay, yeah, we have someone that, here's the stuff that you can do. Here's people in the area that can help out. And so I think that's a big thing that we all lack. And for me, it was elite, elite, elite at the start. But then now we have, we have in younger ages, we have Division 1, Division 2 in our U16 leagues, because now you have not just the elite, now you have second tier athletes. And now in the U13 league, it's open to everybody. Mm-hmm. So now you're having all these more people, and we're trying to get the parents involved. But I just believe that we have to, the top athletes, the Ty Reed, you don't have to give him much. He wants to be the best. You just have to give him the opportunity. But you have to give more resources to the people that are going to become the administrators, the coaches, the referees. Like you say, we send referees with us to Europe to just, okay, free trip. If you ref all year, no problem. Coaches, you become a certified coach, you're going to come to Europe with as an assistant coach. What do you mean? I don't have to pay? No, you don't have to pay, and you get paid. So, yeah.
That's what's going to make it happen. Like that type of stuff is what.
Yeah.
There's only so many Drew Donlins out there, and so many Tyreeds,
yeah. But you have to, like, even in Canada, I fight a lot with Canada Handball because it's the same thing. Only stuff is with national teams, and yes, you want to be successful. Even in Alberta, when we go to competitions, I push our coaches and myself. We got to win because we're Alberta and we're known to be the best. So, but you have to have within your area too, because not everyone wants to travel. Not everyone wants to do that stuff. People want to play just in the league, be competitive, win the T-shirt, win the trophy, and you have to have that too. But those are the people that are going to grow the sport, because the one that trains 5 times a week, when they're done their athletic, they're like, I'm done with sports. I'm moving on with my life.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, but I mean, I think we went a different way, but it just. It's just always my thoughts. I love listening to the podcast and John Ryan.
Real quick.
Yeah.
For the guys who do, become refs and coaches, like once they go on to their careers, have you like had a contingent yet that have like sort of like now gone on to like start, not necessarily in handball, but like have benefited from like having reffing or coaching experience on their resume, or just from the skills they learned?
I get probably about 7 to 10 references I have to do for doctors. They're getting into med school, and a big thing is the volunteer hours. So a lot of them, like did they coach this school? Did they do this? They do that? Physios, a lot of it. And they use the handball part for their education. So and we tell them that too, right? Like for medicine, I don't know how it is in the States, but here they look at how many volunteer hours. So one just applied and he did so much reffing, so much coaching, because that helps him in his career as well.
Yes.
Yeah. And then you have we have the players that they're committed, they do all those reffing coaching, and then they kind of stop and just play club for a few years when they're in school because of time. But as soon as they're done school, they come back. They come back and yeah, I want to be a player. I want to be a coach. I'll coach club. They start a club. So it's, it takes time and everything, but you gotta make sure they know that you can use this for yourself as well, for your references, your resume and everything. And like I say, we've told you this, but people make a lot of money in handball in Alberta as referees, and like a student can make 3,000-4,000 in 8 weeks in reffing high school handball, because they ref like 300 games in 8 weeks. Our high school season plays around 600 games in 8 weeks all over Alberta. So, and you get paid depending on your certification. We have three sort of referee certification, anywhere from $22 to $35 for. In high school U18 we play 220s, so it's $22 to $35. Yeah. So, and they ref three games an evening. So that's almost $100 each evening. And then on weekends, there's 4 tournaments all over Alberta every weekend, and they ref like 12 to 18 games on a weekend. And they get their hotel paid for, they get their food paid for, they get their mileage paid for. So they make crazy money.
There isn't an organization in the United States that's operating as efficiently and as effectively as you guys. So hats off to you. Hopefully we can be.
We were ranked. The cool thing, we got ranked top 3 sports in Alberta for our organization and what we do with our funding. Our budget is over 1.2 million a year.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And so what's been the key to like reinvesting in the club for you? Like what's your main area of focus when you do, how do you manage your revenue?
Well, we have our budget plan.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of like every year we kind of do our structure of what we're investing in, and then we kind of go from there. But I mean, we get 85,000 Canadian a year from the government.
Nice.
and then we have our membership fees, but the rest is all from our tournaments, from everything else. So like that's why when the government looks at, we get audited every year, and the government looks and goes, you guys do over $1 million in expenses and revenue, but we only give you 85,000. So we got rated one of the top sports in Alberta for what we do with what we get.
I don't blame you. It sounds like you're absolutely
just. Yeah. So I mean, it's good, but the only thing is, like, we should all help each other. Like I say, I love the States, and it only helps us with competitiveness, and to see like I look at you and you fire me up.
Likewise.
Yeah, and so people don't understand. Like, I mean, you're 23, 24, you're getting into life, but that podcast, you don't just show up and do an hour. You probably have to talk before, or you guys, write to each other. It takes time.
Work is JD. That's the hard work is all JD.
Yeah. So that, and I'm sure you get emails every day with your club, and I'm sure you do all that kind of stuff. So there also has to be someone that, people that help you from the next governing body and all that stuff. And like I say, someone said it at our meeting. He goes, why do we continue to punish clubs? And like, even there, if you don't do this, you get, if you don't get your entry fee by this time, you $200. If you're not at the coaches meeting, it's a $200 fine at USA National. But he goes, why not, if they have 2 teams at the USA, or for us, 2 teams at in the certain age category, why don't they get a credit on their fees? If they have certified coaches, why don't they get a credit? So like, why wouldn't maybe USA Handball look and go, if your coach is a certified coach at USA National, you get $150 credit on your fees. If you have 2 certified referees, you get a credit. So he said it, and I'm like, ooh, that's a good idea. Is that instead of us fining everything, you didn't do this, you get fined $200. Why not give incentives? And then a club can go, listen, if we go to referee courses, coaching courses, we can maybe go for $200 to entry fee.
And what do you know? And all of a sudden, wow, we're doing better because everyone is trained and properly and understands what's going on.
Yeah.
And it's not expensive.
No.
What?
Yeah.
Crazy, right?
So those are, I think, those things, and he said it to me, and we did that with our clubs. Clubs this year coming up is like social media. If the number 1 social media club that gets the most followers, that shares our stuff, gets a $400 credit for their season. If they have one certified head coach, they get certain much off. So a club can make over $1,500 in a season just off fees. For it helps us get more certified coaches, referees. Yeah, so just those kind of ideas that come up. But
You are my spirit
oh
animal.
yeah.
For taking all this time and chatting with you.
No, it's like I said, I wanted to talk with you because you're someone that I found you somehow. I saw your vlog. I started watching it, and I was just like, your first vlog was a little awkward, but it was like your passion was like, that's what I love, is like people's passion in the sporting, the passion to do it. And you're a little kid at the games when you saw Vargas and you talked to Vargas, right?
Oh, that was
And you show up, and you know what? And USA needs to use you more because you went to those World Championship games and you have all your USA handball stuff on.
Yeah.
And you know what? It's people like you. It's you and JD and those people that are going to end up growing the sport.
And guys like you, and it's really it takes it, like you said, it takes a village, and it's helpful to know that I'm not the only crazy person out there. It's there's some days where I'm like, I'm just insane for doing this, but it's helpful and empowering to talk to a guy like you and JD, and we'll have to do this again sometime. And I'll send some of the unpublished vlog episodes I have sitting on my computer.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for this, and like I say, it's always a pleasure talking with you. And I keep up to date with your club, and just hopefully all the successes. And again, just keep working. You're doing the right, in my opinion, you're doing the right stuff. And we were pumped to try to get to USA Nationals to play there, but hopefully it happens next year. And Canada is allowed to travel to the States at that time. And
if you guys bring your swim trunks, you can probably just swim across the river. It's really not
that. Yeah, exactly. And thank you for doing this. And I'll be waiting for Saturday for your podcast. You guys have one this Saturday?
Maybe. This one might be. I think JD might have some stuff, but we'll tweet out. We'll put the word out if we have one.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. And like I said, it's great to kind of get to know your journey, and we rambled off, but that's good. It's handball passion.
Amen. Thank you for all the work you're doing. Seeing what you're doing and seeing, the stuff that you're doing is incredibly inspiring, and it just gets me fired up even more.
Thank you. Again, if you ever need anything, just write out, and we'd love to help in any way we can.
Likewise. We'll have to talk again soon.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.